welcome to my blog. Welcome to another episode of Metal Shaping Madness. This time round I'm going to show you how to build a complex panel like this. And what's more, utilising no specialised equipment, no English wheels, no power hammers, no nothing. All I used to build this panel was a dome-faced rubber mallet, some thick marine ply, a jigsaw, and some self-tapping screws. Ow! Jamon! So this is the panel I've got to repair. It's a very awkward shape because it's so bulbous and domed and curved, and all the lip is failing all the way around. It's either full of perforations or completely missing. It doesn't look too bad here, but believe me, it's really bad, especially on the ends. It's having a new floor panel, the car. The panel is actually a exhaust box recess panel, and I'm using that floor panel to use as a template to mark out for the new panel I'm going to make, which is really handy. Big piece of steel on the top, far larger than it needs to be, and I'll come to that in just one moment. You can see I've screwed it down. It's all marked out where I want to make the panel to. I'm just going to try and be as brief as possible. That there's a few things I feel like I need to point out to help you out here. So I've got the metal put against the plywood that's underneath, and I've cut it far larger than it needs to be. You'll see in the video that the actual lip, when it's finished, is only about 20mm wide, which would be sort of around here somewhere. And I've got all this expanse of steel. Far too much. Well, why have I done that? Very good reason is, I'll give you a bit of a clue with this spanner. See the jaws of the spanner, how wide they are in this area, and at the end it just goes to the tip. That's because there's no stresses right on the tip, but here is where the most stresses are going to occur when this spanner is used to undo something very tight, or do something up very tight, of course. And it's just the same in this. We've got all this expansive steel that will help support the panel and stop it from buckling around the high stress areas. If I just cut the lip to where it is and then put some self-tapping screws right on the lip, then that lip would have instantly buckled as soon as I started hitting that with that rubber mallet. Another thing I want to point out is that I hit it fairly central. And the reason I do that is to give it the nice domed effect it requires. If I'd hit it on the very end, it would have just tipped the panel at an angle and not really dished it out. Like I say, we want that beautiful dished domed effect. And the reason you get that is because there's a lot of tension in this lip around here, and that lip is hugging the mallet as it comes down, and it's resisting that, which is really good. It's actually helping you put the shape into that panel. The other thing about leaving it too large, it's too large on the ends by about 2 or 3 inches. Of course, the panel on the end, because of all the stresses and the tensions you're putting in it, that panel will probably just dive off on the corner at a funny angle because you're stretching that steel around, and the edges always go wonky. And of course, once you finish making the panel, so you're happy with the shape, you can just cut it off and you've got a beautiful crisp fold without it going off at an odd angle. And that's the reason why I did that as well. I always say, rule number 1, always make your metal bigger than the actual finished patch you want. And there are 3 really good reasons for that. And it's really all about the strength. So holding the strength, losing an edge, so the edge will dive off, and the other one most important, is there's nothing more infuriating than spending an hour or a couple of hours making a repair section to only then offer it up to the hole that you want to fill to find that it's about 2 or 3 millimeters short of what you actually wanted. You're always better off making it an inch bigger than it needs to be and then cutting an inch off at the end and trimming it and getting it spot on. So I'm using that piece of I-beam just to hold down the panel work really. Because we're stretching it, it isn't really going to pucker up that badly on that edge, but if you just put a bit of pressure on there, you could just use a big dolly. You could even use a sandwich, so you could make a sandwich out of another piece of ply, bolt it through, or some nice G-clamps or something, but it really isn't too bad. And anything that does come up, I could sort of tap back out again with just the flat part of the rubber mallet or panel hammer. You can see here it's really come on leaps and bounds. I've sort of fast forward about 3/4 of an hour or so. I'm just using a blocking hammer or planishing hammer just to get the edge a bit crisper. Double checking the fitment over and over again. This panel is actually quite bulbous and curved at one end and then quite flat at the other, so it's a completely different shape all the way around, which is why this process lends itself so well to this kind of panel. Once I've got the panel off the wooden former, I'm just going around now with a spoon and a dolly on my piece of I-beam just to take out any little dings that I put in actually with that blocking hammer. You see the two, they almost look like mini wheel arches, don't they? See, I'm just thinking how many different things you could use this for. You could use it for roof edges, for little flared wheel arches, for just so many different applications this could be used for. And it fits pretty well. Now, I don't want to really labour on the welding side, but what I'm basically doing is just tacking it up here. So I'm tacking it up first, then those small tacks will just be ground off and they'll turn into short runs of about a centimetre apart as well, and then I'll just fill in the blanks afterwards. Bit of planishing in between. You planish the welds after you've welded because you get the heat shrink going on after you've welded something, so planishing just stretches it back out again. High frequency starter. This is for John, who asked me, is it a scratch start TIG? No, it's a high frequency. Now you can see it's all been welded round, nice and smooth, hardly any filler rod used whatsoever because I got such a nice tight gap. I just used a tiny bit of MIG wire, just a bit of 0.8 MIG wire as a bit of filler, and I just give it a tiny bit every now and then so it's just got a little residual amount of steel as I'm going round. Just a shot from the inside, show you that it's penetrated quite nicely all the way through. And we're on the other end now, so this is the other end. I'll just whip through this. Same process, but I might as well put this on. So you can see the shape, such a nice shape going on there. Such a shame you won't see half of it once it's finished. And there we have it, with the exhaust back in, trial fitting it so that I can drill those holes through so I can fit that exhaust, well, the exhaust brackets back up into that panel. Weld some captive nuts the other side. It's all finished, back into the floor. It's being shot blasted now, and then it's going to be epoxy coated. And there's the epoxy coating on. Beautiful job. You'd never know, would you? How was it for you? Enjoyable? So thank you very much for watching. Please don't focus upon the panel that I made in the video. Focus upon the processes that were behind the panel that I made in the video, because after all, that black section could have been curved. We could have steamed that piece of ply, cut a different shape out of it, and we would have ended up with a completely different shaped panel. It's all about the processes. How can you utilize for your project those processes and make a panel that shape that you want? Okay, I'm sure I'm going to come back to this at a later video, because I want to make more of these kind of videos and more of these kind of panels and weld them together and then show like a completed project. That's kind of where I headed to. In the last metal shaping video, I said I'd give away one of my beautiful panel hammers. The question was, what engine did I fit in my van? The answer was a Zetec engine. Let's go and pick a winner at random. David Burt. Well done, David. All you've got to do is contact me. My email address is in the video description. Just let me know what your address is and I'll post this off to you at my own expense, of course. For those that keep asking, I'm really sorry, but I cannot get hold of these hammers anymore, and I've only got a couple left, and I intend on giving those both away as prizes. I'll give the next one away on the next metal shaping video. Anyway, the question to win another one of these hammers, one of Trev's beautiful smack smooth hammers, is what's the purpose of my van? What am I actually going to use my van for? Simple question, and you too, like I say, could be the owner of one of these beautiful hammers. Chickens! If you'd like to help support the channel, there's a link in the video description, but only if you want to. And I'll say bye for now.